As always, we like to start the show with a few samples. And Tom, you know, if I'd known you were going to bring Fluffy, I don't know that I would have wanted you on the show.
Funny thing, Kim, I was walking by your car today and I found this. And I know how much you love spiders. This is Fluffy. We have her in our department, and she is just one of our zoo specimens, and she is a Honduran curly-haired tarantula. Now, we don't have tarantulas in Nebraska, and I think the closest state is about Oklahoma, and I'm kind of disappointed by that. But we do have some rather large spiders, like wolf spiders we see in the fall. They can be rather large. They come into your house. But I really want to make a pitch for how nice spiders are. Now, you're doubting me on that, and I think a few other people are looking a little nervous as Fluffy crawls around on my hand. But spiders are carnivores. They're hunters. Some make webs. Some walk around and look for their prey, but they eat insects. Some of the insects they feed are pests. So they actually are fairly beneficial. And we try to do things to encourage them, not just necessarily kill them off. So if you do find one inside, I think it's a great idea if you can try to round it up and maybe get it outside and let it do its work of eating some pest insects.
Wonderful. Put her back.
All right. Come on, Fluffy.
Thanks, Tom. All right, Zach, that's actually a sample that a viewer left for us.
Yeah, it's a great sample. My sample started to wilt, so we're going to go with the Nimbawill sample. And this is a sample that a viewer sent in. This is in Lincoln, I believe. And this is Nimbawill, and she has it in a lawn that has buffalo grass. And Nimbawill is warm season grass, similar to buffalo grass, and so it's just starting to green up. It spreads by seeds, but once established, it spreads by rhizomes. So it's really difficult to control. When you control it, you have to spray well outside the patch because there's rhizomes farther outside that you don't see in the patch. And so the standard control for something like this has always been Roundup. After it's greened up, but now we have tenacity, and tenacity will control it selectively in a cool season grass. It will also control it selectively in buffalo grass. One thing, depending on the buffalo grass cultivar, we do see a little whitening with tenacity. The bad thing about tenacity, that's a really low rate of herbicide. It works out to be 5.3 ounces per acre, and it works out to be 7/10 of a teaspoon per 1,000 square feet. So it's difficult for homeowners to apply. I got that question last night, as a matter of fact, in the email. And so it's best if you leave it up to homeowner or leave it up to professionals to control something like this. But tenacity will do it selectively, or Roundup, you can always spray it out with Roundup. Multiple applications because it spreads by stolons, or rhizomes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Zach. All right, Kevin.
Yes.
Yes.
Tonight we have mildews. We're going to talk about mildews, two different mildews and two different types of plants. The first plant is a viburnum, and it is suffering from powdery mildew. And as the name as makes it sound, it's a very powdery appearance that occurs on the leaf surface, and it's a fungus that does this. It enjoys, or it does its thing with cool temperatures and very, very humid conditions. So when we're thinking about management, we always think about trying to expose the plant to both wind and sunlight, as they will both help reduce humidity and thus help the chance of infection. So powdery mildew causes white, fuzzy, they'll start off as round little spots, and they'll be fuzzy with kind of a fuzzy border. You have to compare that then with the downy mildews, which create quite a different symptomology. If you look at the very center of the lesion, the plant material is completely dead. If you go out from there, it's kind of dark, and then you'll also notice some chlorosis, some yellowing. So yellowing with a dark patch, and then inside that dark patch it starts dying out. It's a good indication of a downy mildew, and this is a rose. So downy mildews have a wide host range, powdery mildews have a wide host range. So you'll see them on all sorts of plants, and you'll see them when we have these humid, cool conditions, even though they can still kind of be a problem under humid, warm conditions. So there are different fungicides available, so it's good to identify these guys correctly because the chemistries are different when we're thinking about control between these two different pests.
All right, or wait for the weather to change.
Or wait for the weather to get hot and dry.
Okay, all right. What did we bring tonight, Jeff?
Well, I have a couple things. You know, things are, I know a lot of people are concerned about their trees and shrubs right now. And so we're probably all still wondering about a few things in our yards. The iris and peonies were blooming earlier this week, and they're starting to I noticed some of the iris flowers are starting to fade a little bit, as are the peonies. Two things that are really just today starting to do their thing. On the thing I'm shaking right here is a tree lilac, and you can see it's just getting ready to flower. I just picked it right before the show, so it's not really open yet. We've had good luck with tree lilacs on campus and here in Lincoln. They're very hardy. They seem to tolerate a wide range of weather conditions, be it drought or heavy rain or really wet times. So we've had really good luck with tree lilac. It's one that I typically recommend for folks. In given time, they're slow growing, but given time, they can get pretty good size. The other one I'm showing real quick is an arrowwood viburnum. It too is just getting ready to flower, again, just starting today. It's another viburnum that is very hardy, doesn't get the powdery mildew that we see on the nannyberry viburnums. Pretty resistant, very tough for this area, does very well. So 2 white flowering trees and shrubs.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. All right, Tom, you get the first picture question
Great.
from a viewer. This is a viewer who has issues, as you can see, on that sand cherry or purple leaf plum. Terrible damage. We had actually a similar thing last week or the week before, I believe, but the question is what caused this and what do you do about it? They're wondering if they should do some severe pruning.
Well, Kim, to me it looks like it could be damage from lesser peach tree borer. Lesser peach tree borers tend to be attracted to plants that may have a canker. They may be wounded from some mechanical damage, such as severe pruning or just even winter injury. So the insects are attracted to that, and the female will lay her eggs in that bark, and then the little larvae, the caterpillars, the stage that's doing the damage, will bore into the tree. Now, the first thing I would do is make sure that it's from the peach tree borer. I would look at the gooey stuff that's coming out of it and look to see if there's signs that the insect is in there, such as it's a boring insect, so little wood chips come out of the tree. And there also is going to be poop, which, what do we call insect poop? Frass. So there will be that there as well. So if you confirm that it is lesser peach tree borer, that there are insects in there, you have 2 generations to deal with. One's in the spring and one's in the fall. So right now we should be getting adults coming out of those wounds and flying around, and then they'll mate, and then they will go, the female will find a suitable site, wounded tree, lay eggs again, and then their little borers will go into that. And if I would say the best way to time this, if you're going to use a spray, is to use a pheromone trap, which you can buy online, and put it out. When you start to see moths in there, that's the time to maybe go in and do a preventative spraying. But I think what I would try first, if it's in a limb, I might try to do some pruning of the affected limbs rather than spray, and then destroy those immediately, burn them, chip them, somehow get rid of them. And I would also maybe consider poking around in the wound with maybe a wire or something, try to kill the larvae off.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. All right, Zach, you ready? This is a viewer that has a multitude of spots that recently appeared in their bluegrass lawn. This is a Lincoln viewer. They haven't used any weed killer or anything like that. They want to know if we have a clue as to what and how.
No. Clue. We've, bleh. So if it would have been earlier, we've had a little bit of winter kill damage on bluegrass that doesn't come back, but it sounds like it already greened up and just kind of faded away. If they would have applied something, I would have said, yeah, it looks like that repeating pattern looks like something abiotic would be my guess. It could be something, summer, we're approaching the summer patch season right now, but here in Lincoln, we've gotten enough rain, so you wouldn't be seeing the symptoms, and so I'll go with my first answer. No clue.
In other words, perhaps a sample.
A sample would be great. Send it to Kevin for the Kevin's lab for the sample, and give us a great picture. We really like pictures like that, but I just
okay. You get to say who knows.
I don't know.
I can at least tell you yes or no if it's a pathogen or not. So
Gotcha.
You can go from there.
All right, Kevin, speaking of pathogens or not, this is viburnum night. This viewer has Allegheny viburnum. It's a young one. and they're seeing these sort of brownish spots. They're wondering if this is a fungus of some sort. It's about a 4-year-old plant, as I recall.
I don't think so, actually. I think it's just a response to some kind of environmental stress. I would, if they have some kind of a hand lens or magnifying glass, I would look at those dark spots, those lesions, and see if there's any kind of black dots or fungal material. And that actually might develop over time now that those spots are dead. But just the way they're manifesting themselves on the leaf, I really don't think it's anything fungal. I saw some new leaves starting to come out. What I would do is wait and see if anything develops on those leaves. If it does, if it kind of continues, it's possibly a fungus, but it could have been just some kind of event that happened in the environment that plant did not like. Hopefully that event passed, and then the rest of the foliage should be okay. So.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Jeff, we have, 6,000 questions about red maples.
6,000. Oh my
Here's
gosh.
one. This is a 5-year-old tree. This one's in papillion. A lot of major branches looking like this. We have 2 or 3 others from other parts of the state, and then followed by a 3-year-old red maple that looks like that. So we have a little foliage on the trunk.
Okay.
So the questions they all have, of course, are what should they expect for good tree health with the red maple and its cultivars, and what do they do?
Well, the first picture, at this stage, I wouldn't do anything. I would wait and see on that tree. I would check the tree and make sure that we still have, the little thumbnail test, if we have green wood, if we have soft buds on the branches that don't have leaves on it. I would give it, I would be in no big hurry. The second tree, it's done. Go to your nursery and buy a new one.
And that would be, we don't know where this viewer is from, but it is an insect they found on a dead pin oak, about a ½ inch long, doesn't seem to fly. They just kind of want to know what it is, and is it a good guy or a bad guy?
I saw this email, or this picture, and I was pretty excited to see it because it's something I haven't seen very much, and that is a pleasing fungus beetle. Interesting name, right? The pleasing part is kind of interesting, but it is an insect that feeds on fungus, and that actually makes it beneficial because it's a recycler, and plus it can help prevent the spread of some pathogenic fungi that move from tree to trees. This particular, we don't have too many species up here, most of them are tropical, but this particular genus that we were looking at likes to feed on the hardened bracket type fungi that are on dead trees, and so the adults feed on it and then the larvae feed on it, and the only reason they're a problem is if you're trying to pick wild mushrooms.
Really? Pleasing fungus.
Pleasing fungus beetles.
Beetle, for heaven's sakes. All right, Zach, you get the next picture. And this is, again, what in the world is going on with the turf? This is mostly bluegrass, a hint of fescue. They did put down a fertilizer with a weed killer and an insecticide, and then had a huge rain. They're familiar with brown patch and all sorts of other fungi because they do have a drainage problem. Came on very quickly, land slopes downward. The grass does not want to pull up, so and this is Omaha, so they want to know what's going on here.
Yeah, when I see a picture like this, and I think we have another picture that's a little farther away, it's such a, if it's something biotic or living, it would be in some kind of a patch. And this is a width, and it kills almost everything, it's damaged everything in that patch, whether it's bluegrass or tall fescue. And so that to me looked like it's a pesticide or a fertilizer over-application in one way, shape, or form, or a misapplication or something like that. Will it come back? That's a $65 question. The rain probably helped wash some of that product through if that's the case, and give it a few. Well, bottom line is you have to give it the rest of the summer because it's too late to reseed now. And so watch it, baby it through. Might damage some roots, and just keep it watered. Prevent stress on it. A little bit different on this one. It's under shade too, so that's already adding stress. So that one's it's abiotic, whatever it is, whatever.
All right, thank you, Zach. All right, Kevin, this is a fun one, and it's a little different species than one you had earlier. This is a tomato in a container, and the viewer said, all of a sudden the top stem is thickening, the flower looks like it's doubling or tripling or quadrupling. She wants to know, and yeah, that's a pretty good picture there. You can see what's going on with that.
Yeah, it looks like it's probably fasciation, which is a genetic disorder. It's actually carried by seed, so this mother plant could have had fasciation as well. It's it's nothing you can really do about it, and it's not going to spread. Any cuttings from it or any seeds will have it. But it's basically damage that occurs in some form to the crown, which typically creates a round stem. Well, the damage in most cases flattens it, and so the stems become really flattened, or if it happens where the flower is forming, you can get a double flower. So it's a very interesting thing. It can happen when you're pruning out trees, I think. That's my theory, I guess. But I see it a lot on viburnums. After pruning, you'll have fasciated limbs come out that are really flat and weird looking. So damage to the crown, or it's kind of a genetic thing.
All right, excellent. All right, Jeff, this is a viewer in Elkhorn who had has an ash, or this happened to the ash, let's say that. They're wondering exactly how do we know when to keep and when to cut, and what's going to happen here. And then their follow-up question is, if this one really should come down, is it okay to dig out the stump and then plant a different tree in the same spot?
Oh. Well, to answer the last question, is it okay if they remove the stump and plant another tree? Yes. So that's not a problem. But you may want to move. I don't know if I'd want it in the exact same spot as the stump. You'd really have to go to a lot of work. So if you're really into that spot and really want to go down 4 feet and go out 8 feet all the way around and bring in topsoil, that'll work. The tree has included bark, and it looks like that third stem even probably has some of that as well. So I would say it's not a tree worth saving at this stage.
All right, Tom, this is a fun question.
Great.
This caller wants to know where she can get the plans for a bee house.
Where can you get the plans for a bee house?
And the reason it's fun is, of course, you built the bee house in the
Yes.
backyard farmer garden.
I'm the bee house construction guy, and we're working on a neb guide publication currently, and we're hoping to have it out fairly soon. But I think the best way is to probably email me, and I can send you a brief write-up. But can I do a simple description?
Yeah.
Holes that are between 1/8 of an inch to 3/8 an inch in diameter, drilled about 4 to 5 inches deep. And you can do it in any type of scrap lumber as long as it's not pressure treated. You can even do it in, say, that ash tree. You could drill some holes into that trunk or
Perfect.
stems of it.
Perfect. Good. Excellent. All right, Zach, this is a Columbus viewer who wants to know whether tall fescues produce rhizomes, and will they tolerate drought?
Tall fescues, since the dawn of time, have produced rhizomes. And Kentucky 31, the first tall fescue, does produce rhizomes. It doesn't produce very many. The older tall fescues might produce, maybe 5 plants would produce rhizomes, whereas 100% of the Kentucky bluegrass would produce rhizomes. Now, through breeding and selection, we're probably at 15 to 20% of the plants producing rhizomes, but like the rhizome on nimblewill that I had for the sample, those rhizomes might be 6 inches to a foot long, whereas tall fescue rhizomes might be 2 to 3 inches long. And then the second question, can it withstand drought? It can withstand drought. It's better not to go into drought damage, into drought stress. Do not let it go dormant. I personally think it's got better drought stress than what we're giving it credit for, but just to be safe, you can let it turn blue, but then I would water it.
All right, thanks, Zach. Kevin, this is a viewer who has a hornbeam, planted about 5 years ago. It's been doing really well, except this spring they noticed some bleeding in the trunk. They don't think it's suffered any injuries. Then the buds haven't opened, and the branches are taking off sort of a reddish hue. Any experience with that, with hornbeam?
I would imagine that there would also be some discoloration. It sounds like a canker of some sort, especially if there's no physical wound and it's bleeding. That's probably the result of some kind of internal infection, and I would imagine that you don't want to do it because it would harm the tree. The tree might be dead anyway, but you could cut through that trunk and probably see a difference in live wood and infected wood. If it's not leafing out, if it's not budding out, I imagine it's going to die pretty soon. So it's maybe just a losing situation at this point. You might have to rethink that spot with maybe a different plant.
Maybe one of the ones that we saw a lot of winter injury on.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Jeff, this is a Lincoln viewer who has a tomato question that sounds like it's for Kevin, but it's not. They have leaves that are turning yellow and falling off. they're still inside by the south window.
Oh, it's time to move it outside.
Yeah, it is.
You and your trick questions here. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's time. It's after the frost, so
Yeah. All right.
take it
time to
outside
move
for a
up.
walk. Yeah.
You ready, Jeff?
Okay.
Okay. So, is it time from a viewer to cut back the big sedums, the tall sedums, and their chrysanthemums so they don't flop all over the place?
Yes, if you haven't already done it, I'd go out and do that.
All right. Is there a technique for that? That doesn't take very long.
Well, you can pinch it back like you were doing there with the pines, but or you can use pruners, either one. Yes.
All right. We have 2 viewers with Harry Lauder's walking stick, which has come only from the base this year, and the stems are no longer curly. What has happened?
You no longer have Harry Lauder's walking stick. You now just have European hazelnut. So
All right, start over.
start over. Yeah.
Several viewers have Rose of Sharon that still doesn't have any leaves. What's the deal there?
It might be dead. Again, it depends on how much you love the plant. You can wait if you like, or if there's no life in the wood, I would say go buy yourself a new one.
All right, and oak leaf hydrangeas seem to be sprouting only at the base or one leaf. What's up with that?
Yeah, I think same thing. We had dieback, but I'm confident with the oak leaf that they'll recover from this. So just prune the dead out of it, and in a couple of years you'll be right back to where you were.
Excellent, nice job. Good answers.
Oh,
Not
thank
too
you.
fast, not too slow.
Okay.
Are you ready, Kevin?
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the roses are blooming all over many towns. What about the bloom of the black spot?
I haven't seen it here in southeast Nebraska. I haven't gotten any samples into the clinic.
All right, and if you see it, what should a person do?
Remove those leaves.
Excellent. Last year, this viewer had the red leaf spots on their red twig dogwood. Is there anything that should be done about that?
They had it last year. They don't have it this year.
Not yet.
Wait until I mean, it's hot and humid right now. It's perfect for leaf lesion type fungi development. So I wouldn't treat until you see it. Otherwise, don't worry about it.
Okay. They also have, the same viewer has the same sort of thing showing up on the leaves of their Husker red penstemon.
Okay, so probably a rust type fungus. It never really kills the plant. It's just maybe unsightly. You could treat for it, but just enjoy nature's wondrous pageantry.
Okay. Is slime mold in mulch dangerous to pets and kids?
I don't believe so, but you can just wash it off with a hose and get rid of it.
Excellent. Nice job. 5. Yes.
You're so serious.
I just want to do better than 4. That's all.
All right, Zach, you ready?
Pass. I'm just practicing.
Okay, perfect. How often should one mow their turf right now in the rainy parts
All
of
the
the
time.
state?
All the time, 1/3 rule. And so that's probably twice a week right now, once every 5 days or so.
Okay, if the clippings are really, really long, should they be raked up or can they be allowed to windrow on the turf?
I would not let them windrow on the turf. Number one thing, I would raise the mower the next step if you can, and then mow it at that height and then move it down. If you have to collect the clippings, then collect them and move them to a garden or something like that if there's no herbicides been applied.
All right, spotted spurge appears to be appearing. How do you control it?
Oh,
now?
that's a tough, spurge is a tough one as a summer annual. The 3-way herbicides will work, but not very well. Give it a whirl.
Okay, is there a neb guide on grasses and weeds identification?
Yeah, there's a number of we have a whole bunch of neb guides on our webpage.
Okay, which buffalo grasses are best cultivars for quick coverage?
They're all pretty equal, but the Sun Dancer, the brand new one, Sun Dancer, is a little bit faster than the rest.
Nice job. Okay, first lightning round, Tom.
Pressure.
Pressure. Okay, so this particular viewer has green beans and the leaves look like lace. What happened?
Bean leaf beetles.
And what should they do about it?
You can spray, perhaps with insecticidal soap, maybe neem oil. You can let it run its course. The leaves will continue to grow.
Excellent. Does using floating row cover work on squash and pumpkins?
Yes.
And what kind?
I would use, I think, a black type of mulch on it, maybe a reflective.
All right. Does spinosad, is that how you pronounce it, work as a soil drench to keep insects out of squash?
I'm not sure if it's specifically labeled for squash. You might not give me that score, but I would check the label, but it can be used as a soil drench.
Excellent. do smoke smudge pots work on a patio for mosquitoes or citronella, either one of those?
Citronella, absolutely.
Okay, and the smoke smudge pots?
I wouldn't do it because of the smoke.
Okay. What are the little bitty green worms that are skeletonizing rose leaves?
Rose slugs.
Rose slugs. Nice job.
This is under protest.
Plant of the
You were
week.
so easy on the rookie.
Beginner's
Too
luck.
easy on
Plant
the
of the
rookie.
week, Jeff. Of course I was easy on the rookie. One time. That's it. All right, so what has Gladys brought us that not only is beautiful, as our old beautiful theme says, but smells wonderful?
Well, she has two unusual things, and we were talking about white flowering earlier in the show. The white flowering we see here is from fringe tree, and there's an Asian and an American fringe tree. Both do very well in Nebraska. They're both small trees, almost seem like large shrubs, but and they will produce a blueberry as their fruit. But they're a very, very handsome plant, and we have them kind of on south-facing locations. They seem to do pretty well in those sorts of locations. And then the plant in the middle, the purple, is a bush clematis, and she thinks this is Fremont's clematis. It's 2 feet tall, 3 feet wide, so you don't think it's Fremont?
I think it is solitary,
Solitary?
integrifolia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. So she says it has silvery soft seed heads like vines, like the vines do. So
Very nice plant for the
Yeah,
landscape.
yeah.
And as always, we thank her for sharing the largesse of her garden. Okay, next picture question is for you, Tom. This is a viewer from Omaha that has issues with the rose and a couple of things that we were actually looking at on this. On the right-hand side, I think, is kind of the insect question, and you had some thoughts about that left-hand weirdness too.
Yeah, on the right hand, that's leafcutter bee, and that's a beneficial pollinator. Its female comes along and she cuts out the little semicircle out of the leaf. She'll do it on roses or other plants as well. She takes it back to her nest, like the ones we put in the backyard farmer garden, and we'll line the tubes and the pieces of wood with that, and that's where she'll have her offspring. So beneficial. I wouldn't spray it for that, and if it's unsightly, just pick the leaf off and go on. Now on the left side, to me it looks like distortion, wilting. If it was later in the year, I'd be suspecting aphids or mealybugs or something, but being this early, I kind of think it's more of an environmental factor, possibly cold.
And it kind of looked like that on the bleaching on the leaves too, that it was the cold freeze where the bee had taken a bite.
Right.
All right, thanks, Tom. Okay, the roadside ditch question for you, Zach. This is a viewer who sent in really an interesting image. This is in a ditch near Plymouth. Very interesting texture and look. They didn't know whether this was last year's growth or this year's growth. So that's your first question. The second is,
I can answer that one. Let me answer that one. That's last year's growth.
and the second question is,
Pass.
of what?
Kim and I were
Yeah.
talking about this. We have seen this sample before, but we can't put our arms or get our arms around it.
Yeah.
So it would be desirable in a roadside dish. We're pretty sure it's probably a cool season grass, we would guess, and that's just the seed head from last year. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I've seen it before. Kim's seen it before. We just
Yeah.
elderly now.
It's a senior moment.
Yeah, we're losing our memories. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, we'll see if we can figure that out, maybe. All right, this is a really cool picture, Kevin. And this viewer who sent this one in thinks that this might be the underground structure of a stinkhorn.
Yes,
And
the
this came
egg.
to us from Facebook, so.
I believe
yeah.
so. That looks like either the egg or the button, they call it, of a stinkhorn, or any kind of a guild, like the cap and stalk type fungi will have that. Their mycelium, which is like the thread-like filaments that they grow as they will eventually form that little egg or that button, and from there they'll push out the stalk and cap that we see above ground. That's likely a stinkhorn. You probably found it in a mulch pile or something like that. So other fungi that you find that create that stalk and cap will have similar types of eggs or buttons.
I think they look like eyeballs,
Eyeballs.
personally. But okay, your picture, Jeff, will be, this is a Southeast Lincoln viewer. And they've had this ground cover for many years when they purchased the home. They don't know what it is. They're worried about it being invasive. Controlling its spread does require a little digging every year. And they really want to know what it is and hope it's not a truly invasive plant.
Well, it's Bishop's goutweed, and which is a common ground cover. You know, in some areas, I think it is considered invasive, and maybe not in Nebraska, but I think farther east, they do consider it as kind of an invasive plant. So, you know, I think digging, I think they commented about digging it, and that's probably one thing other than going in and treating the area, and it probably will take repeated treatments to get rid of it.
Okay, Tom, you get the final picture for you tonight. This is a viewer who has, they're in La Vista. They have Jack Frost Brunera, which is one of the beautiful, it's called a reverse with that white in between, shade plant. 2 years ago, both last year and this year, every single leaf has those little tiny holes. They're wondering, is it a flea beetle? And they did tap tests and those kinds of things, and they saw a couple little tiny dark creatures. But they want to know how they can prevent this from happening, and if it is probably the flea beetle thing.
Well, the first suspect when I looked at it was slugs, and it's easy to look for little mollusks. If you don't see a slime trail, or if you go out at night and look for them and don't spot anything, then I would suspect flea beetle, and that's actually the first impression I got of this image was flea beetles. So the flea beetles are feeding on the foliage, the adults, the larvae would be feeding down in the root system, and you know, really, you can go out during the day and get visual confirmation of what it is. And if you're doing the tap test and things, you're not seeing them. They are good jumpers. They can jump away down into the soil very easily. But I would keep looking for the beetles. The best cultural method for controlling these is in the wintertime, remove all the debris underneath where that plant is. Cut the plant down to soil level, remove any dead leaves. Don't give them a place where they can spend the winter. But if you do see them active during the summer, you can spray them with maybe insecticidal soap or neem oil. And as long as you see them active, repeat about every week or two.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Tom. Zach, this is a yellow clover-like weed that is in sort of those waste areas. I did see some of this in some street frontage spots too. And the viewer is wondering what it is and how do you control it?
Yeah, that one in particular is black medic. There's two weeds that are really similar, but this one's black medic, and you can tell at the very tip of the leaf it has a little needle-like. I think there's an official word for that, but I'm losing that again back to the senior moment that we're going through tonight. So that's black medic, and so most three-way type herbicides will control that. It does best under poorly maintained turf. The other one that looks similar to that is bird's foot trefoil, which is yellow flowers. You're driving past at 55 miles an hour, they look the same. I really like the bird's foot trefoil. It blends well. We're looking at it in mixes with buffalo grass, and so both broadleaf weeds, they do better in poor turf, so better maintenance of the turf if you have to use a herbicide. They are both perennials, and so fall applications are the most effective, efficient way to control them.
All right, thank you, Zach. Kevin, this is also a rose issue. These are miniature roses, and did well. They brought them inside. They're budding. They are seeing this sort of deep red, pale yellow, then almost white. The undersides are still very green. The leaves are still smooth. They're wondering about the odd color and what we think might happen. So
yeah, it's interesting. So they look bleached, and it doesn't look like it's a virus or a pathogen of any sort. The first thing I would do is check for spider mites, because it could be that. But if it doesn't look stippled, if it just looks purely white, which it does, it's definitely the plant itself, the leaf itself, turning that color, which isn't good because you need it to be green because chlorophyll is green and you need photosynthesis. So it's not good. What I think it is, since it looked like it was only occurring on the younger leaves of the leaves towards the top of the plant, it looks like it could be some kind of a nutrient deficiency, probably a micro, since they're the immobile ones and you always see them on the newer foliage, but it could probably also be iron, which is a macro. Probably iron because we have really alkaline soils. It's possible that this is just kind of an iron deficiency that's kind of gone out of hand. I know it's typically the interveinal chlorosis that you see, but it could be, I believe it's a nutrient stress.
something in the soil from
really
the
do
miniature
think so,
rose
yeah.
living in the house.
It's really difficult to try to change the pH of our soil, so corrective measures are difficult. I'm not really sure how to handle it.
Okay, all right. Jeff, this is a viewer who sent us a picture of a flower that they thought fell off a ginkgo. It's not. We want to know what it is, and she wants to know how often this particular tree flowers.
Well, it looks like it's off of a tulip tree, and it's interesting. The leaves are much different between the two. So, you know, I'd be curious to see a picture of the tree too. But they flower annually, and as they get larger, there's at Hornbeam Farm in Plattsmouth, there's a very large one, and it's beautiful. What now?
Catalpa flowers look like that?
No,
No.
that's
Okay.
tulip tree. That's
No.
definitely tulip tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
So anyway, yeah, I guess I'd like to see a picture of the other tree. I mean, it may be in the area
Right,
or something like
right.
that.
Or a
and-
squirrel carried it off.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, ours are flowering on campus now.
Right.
So, cool. All right, we have a couple of announcements tonight of interesting things in the gardening world. So let's start with the first one on the screen, which is the Monument Valley Iris Society Show and Sale, May 31st and June 1st. And that is actually out at the Panhandle Research and Extension Center in Scotts Bluff. So let's hope their iris are beautiful. And then the Garden Club of Lincoln is having their garden tours June 7th from 9 to 1, and that includes East Campus and the Backyard Farmer Garden. So let's hope it looks pretty good by then. We better get out there and work. All right, you get a question, Tom. This is a viewer who has a beautiful grove of ash in Ashland.
No? Oh, nice.
I didn't make that up. And they are wondering what can be done to protect it from emerald ash borer, or do we wait?
At this point, I would wait until we have confirmation that it is within the state, or at least a lot closer than it is right now, which I think the closest is Kansas City. But Iowa's picking it up. So at this point, I would wait.
All right, so keep diligent and we'll keep them posted.
Keep watching.
This is a Denton viewer, so this is out in your neighborhood, Zach.
Yep.
They're wondering how long it takes zoysia to recover from drought damage. So is it drought or winter kill that they're dealing with?
Yeah, well, depending on, I assume this is a new question, so it's probably a winter damage thing, and zoysia may never recover from winter damage. It'll come back. I should take that back. It will recover, but it'll recover slowly. It might start to green up here in the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and it'll recover from its rhizomes and stolons for that one. So it'll be really, really slow.
Okay,
It's browner and longer than what it normally is.
all right, thanks. Kevin, we actually had a picture of this 2 or 3 weeks ago. This is from a different location, Neola, Iowa. They have 2 of the flowering pears, ornamental pears, and they keep getting leaf spots. So they want to know what it is, and is it something you treat for? It's pretty unsightly on the plant.
It's usually a preventative type of thing that you treat with. So if they're already there, you could maybe stop the progression, and it depends on what it is too. And leaf spots, there are a couple of different leaf spot fungi. It could be entomosporium leaf spot. I think they'd probably get that in Iowa as well. And I think there are some other type of fungal spots. So I would get it identified. It's probably a fungal spot of some kind. Again, exposure to light and wind is good for reduction of disease pressure there. And remove the leaves when they fall this fall, and get them out from underneath the tree, because they are a source of inoculum for the next year.
Okay, so and if they have it now, they could send us a picture maybe of that one.
Yeah, it might be identifiable by picture. Entomosporium leaf spot's really obvious. So if it's fiery orange and red, that's
What it is.
could be that.
All right, excellent. Jeff, this is an Omaha viewer that had a 15 to 20 foot magnolia. It bloomed, the flowers dropped with a cold snap, no foliage at all, and the
Wow.
twigs are snapping.
Ooh.
And so they're wondering how much longer they should wait before they.
I would
know,
buy
give it
the
last
stuff for the
right.
s'mores now. And
Yeah.
then you could just, over the magnolia, cook your s'mores. Yeah, that's too bad. There's a lot of that. I mean, a lot of trees pushed early, and it's just been tough, so.
I'm surprised at how many have actually pushed out.
Yeah, right.
So-
Yeah, compared to even
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, I mean,
Right.
things really have recovered.
Yeah.
So,
But were some of those already stressed from the winter,
Oh,
and then this was
probably.
just the
Yeah.
straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah,
I'm the
it-
turf guy, so I don't know anything about trees.
right, but you know, you think about the turf early on this spring, how bad it looked. I thought
Yeah.
it'd look a lot worse than it does right now, so.
Yeah, and it does in some other parts of the state
Yeah.
too. So, All right, Tom, we have a viewer who has a shiny metallic green insect eating the leaves on their apple trees. They're in Grand Island. They want to know what it is and what they can treat with.
I had the same thing this spring as well, and they started off on the suckers, and once they ate those, they moved up into the the tree foliage, and they are flea beetles.
Really?
And they have been really abundant this year for some reason. They tend to be pretty ephemeral. They'll be around for a few weeks and then gone. If you have the patience, you might go out with the shop vac and vacuum them out. But I would, at this point, probably, if you see the adults, spray them with insecticidal soap.
All right, excellent, Tom. We have a little, about a minute, Zach. This is a viewer who wants to know about using preen in the vegetable garden. Do you need to wait until the seeds have sprouted, or can you use preen right after planting the seeds?
Yeah, we cover the preen thing. You want to be careful because preen is a brand name. And so preen has a bunch of different active ingredients, and you really have to look at the label. If it's a preen for a garden, I believe that contains trufflan. It's a pre-emergent, so that should be applied to, I believe, established vegetables. You can't apply it. It'll control many seedlings, and so I would wait to apply it once it's established. And it should, most likely will say that pretty clearly on the label too.
All right, thank you, Zach. Kevin, time for a quick answer to an easy question.
Okay.
An upright juniper that is 25 feet tall, the top 2 feet appears to be drying down. Any thoughts on that one?
It's drying down. That's the key word. Yeah, it's been so dry. A lot of people are seeing that even after supplemental watering. It could be Cytospora canker. Not likely. Probably just winter kill. So
All right.
you lost the top.